Hello, everybody. Here we are, the final episode of Half Deck, as season 3 of Discovery wraps up, and we will have no Trek for the foreseeable future.
Oh,
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, it's sad.
All right. We've got folks tonight who are going to help us talk about season 3. Hello, Anthony. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. How are you?
Here, I'm wonderful. I am excited about talking about Star Trek.
Woo!
Star Trek.
Dove, how are you tonight?
I am really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. And last but certainly not least, the birthday girl, Vandy Beth Glenn. Yay!
Hey, everybody.
How are you?
I am good.
I'm glad to hear it. Daniel was supposed to be joining us tonight. He can't. He had something else come up, but tomorrow is his birthday.
What?
What? Exactly.
Daniel was born on Elvis's birthday.
Well, Elvis, William Hartnell, Stephen Hawking, David Bowie, Amber Benson. Like, I know the whole litany of
Damn.
of important January 8th birthdays. So who do you share a birthday with, Andy Beth?
Millard Fillmore.
Congratulations.
A local Buffalo celebrity.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
I share
Yeah.
a birthday with Kim Il-sung, founder of North Korea. So, you know,
Well,
That's certainly a thing.
it
that
is.
is definitely a thing.
Absolutely.
Anthony, who's your most notable?
Probably Rock Hudson.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's
November
pretty good.
17th. Alan, what about you?
I have no idea. And I think I know I have looked it up on a number of occasions, and I don't think I've ever found anybody that was so memorable. I mean, I know there's got to be somebody, but I don't know. All right, so here we are at the finish line of Star Trek Season 3. So what did you guys think? Jump in and tell us how you enjoyed or not enjoyed tonight's episode.
Aside from some minor quibbles, I think it was great.
I agree.
Yeah, I thought it was a really enjoyable end to a really enjoyable season.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to save this for later, but what do you feel about the sort of the arc of this season as compared to the first or second seasons? How do you think that the overall storyline played out this year, differently or not differently, better or worse than previous seasons?
It almost felt like a different show. And
Yeah.
especially in hindsight, having seen the last episode and seeing like how they tied the whole thing together, I feel like the first two seasons, there's almost no comparison, but it's like the first two seasons were very kind of, they're establishing it, and there's some emotional kind of parts to it, and it's very much the Michael Burnham show. Great, but the third season, even as much as it continued a lot of what they began, like the third season almost felt a lot more philosophical in nature. And I think that it was like the philosophy, like the philosophical side of it was almost it was a lot more fronted than it was in pretty much anywhere else in Trek. I feel like.
I agree with that. I think season 3 is really where Discovery got to where it should have been all along, and that is later than any other Trek series. It didn't necessarily need to be the 32nd century, but it needed to be post Nemesis.
Right, agreed.
And I think that was a mistake that they realized after the first season. And they spent the second season figuring out how to get them to where they needed to be. And that's not to discredit either the first or the second season, which I did enjoy. But I think this is really where Discovery was where it needed to be to add some tension to the show, because we know in the 23rd century, everything's got to turn out okay. So we can have the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. Whereas here, it adds a bit of tension. And then additionally, to Dove's point, moving this crew forward really gives it that philosophical edge of what is our place in this universe. We are out of time. How do we fit in? And I really enjoyed that as well.
So do you think it was a mistake that they corrected, or do you think the producers always meant to bring them to the 32nd century?
I think it was a correction.
If they had meant to bring it in the 32nd century, they would have been saying a lot of different things than they did during the initial marketing of the series. You know, like
I don't know about that. I mean, surely that would be something that they would want to save.
I'll also say that it really felt very kind of slapped together their reason for going forward. Like it really did almost feel like they were like, okay, how can we get this into a new setting? Let's just throw something at the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
Hello, R.L. Gray. How are you?
Hello.
Thank you for joining
There
us
we
tonight.
go. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
Vandy Beth, you were about to say.
Yeah, I was just I don't think that's right. I mean, I haven't read any interviews read or seen any interviews with the producers or the writers or anything like that. But it seems to me it ought to have been very calculated. Like I remember when the series was first announced, I thought, "Oh, great, it's another prequel series." But it looks to me, in hindsight, like they always intended to get to a place like this, and I feel like the series is just deliberately and intentionally took 3 seasons to get basically to the starting line.
I think
Okay.
if nothing else, having it set where it was set for the first 2 seasons establishes an awful lot of groundwork that they are now able to investigate with other shows. So it's almost like it was there to establish other shows before it jumps off and becomes its own show in a way.
I mean, but was that? I feel like that might have been like those other shows might have been a reaction to the popularity.
Oh,
of
sure.
it, you know.
Sure. And I'm sure that going into season 2, I'm sure that they knew we've got a new captain, we've got a new first officer, we've got a Spock, we have to build the entire Enterprise sets. We're not going to go to that expense without using them. And so maybe it was a wait and see what the reaction would be before. But I'm sure that they went in with the intention of spinning that off. So, Mr. Gray, how are you tonight? And what did you think of tonight's episode?
I'm terrific, and I thought the finale was really entertaining. I overall enjoyed it. Yeah, I have more details, but we'll come to it as we move on. It's still early.
And of course, we didn't have a show last week, so we really need to talk about the 2-parter.
Yeah.
In its entirety. So, last week the whole episode centered on Discovery and the drama going on with Starfleet and the curtain, or the whatever they're called. What are they called? The Emerald Drapes?
The Emerald Drapes, the Emerald Chain.
The whole chain.
Alan, you can just call it Die Hard in Space. It's fine.
And they're led by Alphaba, isn't that correct?
Yeah, basically.
Thank you all for getting that.
So I really enjoyed last week not having I certainly was anxious to see what was happening on the planet with the grown-up Kelpian and the monster and all that stuff. But I was very happy to see the episode not divide its attention between the two things and focus on. So let's talk a little bit about the Emerald Chain and their proposition to Starfleet.
I don't know what they thought we were gonna. Why? The Federation? Did they really think they were gonna compromise their principles that much? That said, I loved the interaction between those characters. I really did. Like, I thought that it was a great kind of, again, philosophical. Like, you have these two completely different views of society that are, they're having a little war of words. It's great, and I appreciated seeing that, and I really loved the little detail about I've never eaten a real apple. It's made from our shit. I was like that blew me away. I was like, I can't believe they just said that on a Star Trek show, but they've already said the F word, but somehow that kind of was way more to me.
Well, hey, Lower Decks acknowledged what we always knew about the holodeck, so we might as well go there with the
That's
reputation,
right.
too.
It's been in the technical manual since Next Generation. I mean, everybody knew that, but
And if the apples are made from shit, then obviously they must be red delicious.
good
No, I
one.
think
Yeah.
Golden Delicious is the worst.
No,
Boy,
Red-
Vandy, way to take on Big Apple.
I mean,
I'm not-
Alan, the Golden
I'm
Delicious.
not afraid.
Golden Delicious is one of the things that is one of the hybrids that make up the Fuji. Like they don't hybridize the Red Delicious with anything, so that should tell you something.
It's purity.
It
It's
tells-
pure crap. It's horrible.
Tells me absolutely nothing. But
Exactly.
do I look like an expert in Mendelian genetics?
What does an expert in Mendelian genetics look like?
Not me.
Not Vandy Beth, clearly.
I thought that was kind of amazing that she steals Discovery. She breaks through the Federation's defenses. She invades the Federation space. She invades Admiral Vance's personal space.
Mhm.
And then she wants to sit down and negotiate. I thought that was a brilliant plot turn.
I did
And-
too.
Mm.
What I really loved about that was we have in Star Trek a precedent of corrupt admirals.
Yeah.
And I think the expectation for a lot of people, deliberate or not from the perspective of the writers, was that he would sell out the Federation's principles for peace. And he stood firm, which I
Right.
think people may or may not have been expecting.
And I will also say that the thing that I loved about both that scene and then also the one with Aurelio and Osira, like it was interesting because it's like I think this is one of the first times where we've seen a villain in Star Trek who is absolutely self-assured of their own brilliance, but actually kind of has a point, Like
Mhm.
they actually she wasn't everything. Not everything she was saying was false. She was saying a lot of things that actually made a lot of sense, and
Mhm.
she had a point to a lot of what she was saying. And I think made it a lot more. I guess it felt like there was a lot more at stake all of a sudden because you couldn't see her as pure evil in this
Right.
instance.
Sure.
Right.
That-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That costume, however, was pure evil. That's one of the most hideous costumes I've ever seen on any TV character.
What? I thought you were
Osira?
using pure evil as a stand-in for pure badass.
I love
No.
Osira. Like her whole design was just great. Those
No.
bangs are like
No, the bangs
They
are
make
awful.
No.
they make the character. I'm sorry.
Yeah, two things. That costume was horribly, horribly, horribly unflattering on her, and two, before she died, I wanted her to come to some sort of decision about what accent her character had.
Ain't that the truth?
She's Canadian. How can you expect her to make that decision?
There's a Canadian accent.
No, there isn't.
It would have been a little strange to hear it coming out of a
How great would it have been if she talked like Wayne from Letterkenny the whole,
Yeah.
the whole time? Admiral Vance, how are you now?
We think you're a bunch of
No, we
hosers
won't
over
be
there.
doing that.
I mean, it could go Bob and Doug McKenzie, which would be great.
You want to join the Federation, eh?
Take off, you hoser.
We
All right.
we keep Discovery, but you can have all our back bacon.
There you go.
Oh,
we got
gosh.
we got vast stores of maple syrup on this ship.
And it's made from our shit.
Okay, enough with the Canadian Orions. All right. One of the things that I was kind of thinking the whole time, I wish that they sort of had established in a little bit more concrete terms. I mean, they had done a lot as far as like the loss of dilithium and the number of founder worlds that were no longer part of the Federation. But I wish that they had shown a little bit more in a concrete way what situation the Federation is in, like how bad it is. Because the only way that Vance could really, I'm sorry, the only way that Admiral Daddy could actually entertain believably Osira's offer is if they really are in such a bad shape that they could consider doing this. And I honestly think that it would have been an incredibly cool move had that been in the final episode and the season cliffhanger was the Federation announcing that they had joined with. And that sets the tone for the following season. That would have been amazing.
I thought I was actually a little bit disappointed last week. I was disappointed that they didn't make that they resolved that time, because I know that seeing now what they're trying to do, I guess they want to move forward with it, and they want to move forward with Discovery, season 4. But I do think it would have been amazing had they split this arc in 2 seasons, especially because I don't think they did anything to establish who the Emerald Chain really was. They didn't establish, we've just cut off the head of the Emerald Chain. They're clearly not going to be an adversary much anymore. Like, they can't be,
I was reading speculation in the run up that the Emerald Chain and the Federation would join together and would eventually become the Vidrash. As it was in that short trek Calypso, I think. And
it feels like they've completely dropped that line too.
Right. So I wonder if they'll come back to that eventually. But that seemed like an easy way to head in that direction.
It was a possible future.
How interesting! Oh, sorry.
It was just a possible future. Maybe it won't happen now.
Yeah. How interesting would it have been to keep Osira around and have her be a foil to
absolutely
the crew in the way that Giorgio has been for the past couple seasons?
She wasn't nearly as cool as Giorgio, though.
That is true. But I loved her. I loved Osira. I
absolutely. We can't all have Michelle Yeoh's mojo.
And I liked Osira's bangs. I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
This belongs on the Star Trek Thirst posting group. Osira can turn me into a pretzel.
She really probably could, though. That's just the statement of fact.
Katney, you didn't refer to it as a fringe. You've become thoroughly Americanized.
I've been here for 10 years.
I was just thinking that. Did he watch the show on his telly?
Always.
Or his television.
Boy, there's a lot of cutting international humor this episode.
Right. Speaking of Giorgio, Daniel watched the episode tonight, and he was supposed to be with us, but it can't be. His main reaction was that this would have been a much shorter episode had Giorgio been there, because she would have taken out Osira within 5 minutes and had control of the situation.
Yeah.
Is he actually just sulking because she's not on the show anymore? Is that why he's not here?
Basically. I mean, he did say that the season finale was 2 weeks ago when it was her last episode.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. She will be missed.
Yeah, that is true, but at the same time, I really feel like I am so glad that we don't have just one resident badass on the ship. Like, we now have, Tilly and Owo and really the entire group need to all get commendations, medals, whatever. Like, that was amazing.
Right. And I just want to say, I have always, said the praises of Michelle Paradise and how she has treated the secondary characters. And the season started with like a 5-episode, subplot for Detmer. Yeah. And then we end the season with a big hero moment for Owo.
Right.
So I was going to Michelle Paradise, and oh my god, I thought she was dead.
I did too. I was going to be so mad. I was going to be so
setting her
angry.
Up. They are setting her up for a death, and I was like, "Oh, I'm never watching this fucking show again." If they kill my girl Owo.
I'll tell you what, I thought Book was going to die.
Me too. I was like, I've been saying, like, if they kill Book, then there's no way that I'm going to continue watching the show. I'm giving up. It'll be like that episode of Enterprise season 2 when I was just like, nope, I'm done, gone.
That's another reason I have the theory on that they've been course correcting, because there has been so much discourse over the first 2 seasons about how we didn't know a lot of that second string.
Right.
And I feel like this season they've listened and we've started to get to know Owo and Detmer and to some extent some of the other secondary bridge characters. I want to get to know Nilsson better, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to get to
You would.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
would.
I want to get to know Nilsson a lot better.
Mirror Nilsson specifically.
Back to Star Trek thirst posting.
Yeah.
Report to Horny Brig.
Okay,
So left.
I brought this up the last time we did a show, which was 2 weeks ago. The brown-haired chick on the bridge who was not Nilsson, who the hell is she? And where has Nilsson been for the last 3 episodes? And then tonight she shows up for one scene at the end. She's like,
I
here I
thought
am.
she was Nilsson, and she had just changed her hair color. And I thought, oh my gosh, a simple change of hair color can really change a person. What do
She
you
looks
know?
completely
And then-
different person.
She's blonde again? What? No, but
Okay.
apparently it was 2 different.
So my guess is that it's the Ariam actress, because remember
It isn't though. It's not. It's not.
'Cause I didn't
Hannah
get a good I didn't get a good look at her, honestly.
Now, Hannah Cheeseman was in the 2 Mirror episodes
That's what
as-
I'm saying. I'm thinking that they brought her
as a non-robotic
Right.
Ariam.
which was amazing.
Yeah, which was
Ariam.
really cool. But this is a different character, a different actress.
Huh.
I was like, and tonight they gave her a name. She's been there for 3 weeks, and they gave her a name tonight. That's very magnanimous of them.
What's her
Sure.
name? Is her name
Ina.
Kuchi?
Oh yeah, Ina. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean it's not Ina, because then it would sound like Garton, and then you would think she would only worked in the mess hall, but no. I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, now that they have replicators, they don't need the ship's cook. So
Alan, didn't we
Maybe-
talk about that a couple weeks ago?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, they probably still have
Oh,
a
yeah.
galley space and haul out some cooks for special occasions.
Absolutely, they've got to have.
and that's Lieutenant Ina, but she
Yeah.
for the most part she doesn't have really a job anymore, so they got to give her something to do.
She's the officer. She's the officer who's not wearing boots.
That was good. Holy shit. Okay. We got to talk a little bit about some of these ship upgrades that got made earlier in the season, where we have
Oh, heck yeah.
we have detached nacelles. Apparently now, part of those upgrades was the what do you call those things? The elevators.
Oh, the turbo
Oh,
lift.
the
Turbo
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 lift,
lift. Okay, first
yeah,
of all,
which, by the way, the space that they're operating in
Thank
is
you.
ridiculous.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay,
that
but
is
it's
ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
but it's always been that way in seasons 1 and 2. You
Yeah.
saw all this massive amount of
I
space,
know. I know.
but the turbo lifts always ran on like a track.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a roller coaster at Disney World or some shit. And
Now
now,
it's like
they're
a
just
maglev
free
thing.
floating.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was ridiculous. The amount of time that was spent on that turbo lift with them doing the fight scene.
Yeah.
It would have been like halfway across the galaxy. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I had a couple of quibbles with like the tech in this episode. Like, yeah, the turbo lifts were ridiculous. The computer core was one of the most ridiculous sets I think I've ever seen like, what the fuck is the point of that wall? I'm sorry, but they're just like, but it was. I'm sitting there like it didn't ruin it for me because it was a really good episode, but it was like I accepted the spore drive easier than I accept the existence of this thing, right? It made no sense, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not like the worst thing ever, but
Right.
it definitely took me out of the episode.
I wondered about that too. Have we ever even seen that thing before? The thing that Burnham almost suffocated in.
Why would you have? That's such an OSHA violation. It's such like there's no point to it. Why do you need a wall that you can push someone into in a computer? Like, what is the point?
Yeah.
It's not an OSHA violation. It's an OSIRA violation.
Oh.
Hello.
Okay, so basically it was a sort of like a closet of programmable matter. And you're going to make something out of it. Right now, you're going to make it a death trap. That's all you need it for. Is just to
Okay. But still, it's just horribly unsafe. It's just a terrible design. I'm sorry. It's
Well,
bad.
no, I think Alan's onto something. It was programmable matter,
Sure,
and
okay.
OSIRA just programmed it to be something to kill Burnham with.
I guess okay.
There you go.
I'll accept it.
All right, we got a
Very
I'm sorry, go-
quickly. I have reported to the Horny Brig now. That-
wow. Well, I'll see you there.
Was it the thing about the Osira violation, Anthony? Like, was that?
yes, yes, I was.
All right, we got a bunch of comments, so let me go back and get some that I let's see.
Oh my God,
Where-
Jackson. Yes. Sorry, that the last comment that I'm seeing right now is amazing.
Yep. Wendy says, I thought the whole scene with the two of them, this being Admiral Daddy and or do we call him Admiral Silver Fox? I can go either way.
Admiral Zaddy.
You also- so this is why you're
Yeah.
also going to report to the Horny Brig. Got it.
Exactly. She thought that the scene with them was great. Even better when Will Wheaton's show went behind the scenes in the directing of it. It was two people and the Holo at a table, but it felt exciting.
Yeah.
That's a very
So
good
the
point.
scene with Vance and Osira.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And that's all
Yeah.
in direction. I mean, that's just good directing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of direction, Olatunde was the one who directed tonight's episode, who he usually gets the opening and the closing episodes and some in between. He did an awful lot of, like, the camera starts this way and it
Yep.
Yeah.
like a ton of
Mhm.
it. And I really do dig him as a director, but that's just that was a bit much, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, and okay. Also, I just gotta say, the pacing in the middle of the episode. There's no reason this episode needed to be over an hour. Like there was
Yeah.
so much in just like they could have chopped off at least 5 minutes, if not more. It was just so slow in the middle part of it, and I don't know. I mean, it just felt really long to me.
Yes.
Osira does have an accent, though. It kept coming in and out last week, like
Mhm.
fake accent.
She has an Orion accent.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
And their hearts have 6 chambers, so they have multiple accent centers in the brain.
Well,
So just how Orions work.
Right. Her accent is defined as sometimes British.
Actually, on the original series, didn't the Andorians have an accent that they've never had?
Oh yeah, a
since?
very, very thick accent.
Yeah.
One time, the first
Interesting.
time. But there was only ever really two Andorians. It was that and the guy who was pretending to be an Andorian. He was a secret agent who just spoke American.
That's how you know he's a secret agent Andorian.
Exactly. Clarence wonders if those few ships are all they have. Apparently it is, except for what may be on some of these outlying worlds that they have not been able to get to in 100 years.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
think the fleet is going to increase
Yeah.
soon.
By the way, well, I saw it on the official Star Trek Facebook page, so it might have appeared on other platforms as well. They put out some images this week, some of the conceptual designs for these ships that you
I
just
saw that,
barely
yeah.
get to see on the show. Yeah, and it was just terrific stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
and
some of them so radically different from what
Yes.
we think of as the classic Starfleet ship.
But I love
Exactly.
how they still have a taste for the retro and the 32nd century Intrepid class
Yes.
Mhm.
still
Oh,
kind of looks
God,
like
it
an
was so pretty.
Intrepid class.
right on.
So,
All right, so Chris Railing says, with the Osira gone, we may actually see a lot more chaos and difficulty.
Oh, sure,
Uh,
yeah.
She has been holding together a community in chaos.
The Emerald Chain has broken.
Yes.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, we get the sense from, and I can't remember the character's name, the scientist, the bearded scientist,
Aurelio.
who uses the chair.
Right.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yes.
That at least the Emerald Chain provides an environment in which people are able to realize, some of their aspirations and use some of their talents.
If they're useful to the leadership.
Like torture.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
so
Mhm.
what's interesting there is that's almost certainly going to create a power vacuum, and
Yep.
it will be
Mhm.
interesting to see next season if the Federation steps into it. I mean, can I talk about the end yet, Alan?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So you're already seeing some of the Federation worlds rejoin. Trill
Yes.
is there.
Mhm.
They're
Navarre
talking-
might be.
Yeah, Navarre. So I mean, I think there's going to be that kind of struggle to fill that power vacuum, and we might see some other empires rising at the same time as the Federation's fighting to bounce back.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, the Emerald Chain to me seemed like it wasn't associated with any particular home world.
Mhm.
You know, it's just this conglomeration of peoples. So, what is the deal with the Orion homeworld and the Andorian homeworld? What's the state of their existence right now?
Well,
So
they did establish that the Emerald Chain was kind of like the Orions and the Andorians. Like
It is, yes.
Yeah.
But is it an offshoot? Is it a rebel group? Is
So
it
I-
representative of the homeworlds completely or not?
I got the sense that it was representative of the homeworlds.
Yeah, certainly of the Orions. I mean, it's
Yeah.
called
Mhm.
the Emerald Chain, and we know that
Right.
the Orions from history, Star Trek history, are known for their kind of criminal syndicates. So
Yeah, the Orion
Mhm.
Syndicate. So
certainly them, whether or not it was a ragtag group of Andorians that joined them or all of Andoria.
Right. So, is
Mhm.
this their attempt to put together a new federation?
yes,
Is what it sounds like. You know,
because I'm pretty sure, like, just given what we know of the Andorians, they would have splintered off, and then they're very warlike, militaristic, so they probably would have joined up with the most powerful
right.
faction. So
All right. Jackson says, "Hey, Jackson, when you're dealing with a warp speed bubble that limits comms and cartography, Osira could tell them anything with no way of verifying it."
Sure.
Good point.
Well, true, but I mean, we got the impression from Vance that there have been encounters with and intel on the Emerald Chain for quite a long time now, for
sure they have
decades,
intel,
decades presumably. Osira's not their only source of information about the Emerald Chain, right?
I'll invite you, Amanda.
I'm giving you the thumbs up on her behalf.
More people for the horny brig.
And, you know, I think the name of this show needs to change. No longer Aft Deck. We are now the Horny Bridge.
Horny Brig.
All right. So Clarence says, "How did Osira know so much?"
Well, she was a major boss in the organization. Why wouldn't she know so much?
Yeah. I'm
I
with
mean,
that.
I mean, she's basically the tip of the spear. I got the impression that her ship was not the only Emerald Chain ship that was involved in this operation, and she would have informed all of her other all the other high muckety mucks within the chain that she was going to try to do this.
And to that point, she was, you know, the baddest badass at what was effectively a widespread network. I'm not sure I'd call it an empire, but certainly something that had a lot of power and dominance over the galaxy. I think,
Right.
to Bandy's point, as the head of that, that's natural.
So is there maybe there's one of the other warlords, so to speak, that's ready to step into her place, and the Emerald Chain will continue to be a threat? Or is this just a one season and done thing where we're never going to really hear about it again?
Well, Rin told us that the chain is running out of dilithium.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of that dilithium blew up in the Viridian, so you know,
Right.
it's a big
And
ship.
now the new big source of dilithium
Right.
is in control of Federation. So the Emerald Chain is clearly on its back foot, even if Osira was not the only warlord positioned to make trouble.
Wendy says, "Speaking of Owo, which I do at every opportunity I can, I keep seeing all these interactions that make me think she and Detmer are going to get together."
More queer characters on Trek now.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah,
I didn't pick up on that, but I'm certainly not opposed to it.
Oh, I've been picking up on it. Absolutely.
Okay.
Also, all of their interactions I've noticed between them could also be those of best friends. So
Yeah, that's
wouldn't
what
be-
I think.
I wouldn't be surprised if they could leave it
Besties.
there either.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they've been through a lot together. So either way, I mean, I can see those stress circumstances either leading to a very close friendship,
Yeah.
or falling into each other's arms.
Right. Just gals being pals.
By the way, that was one takeaway I had from the end of this. I guess it's really come together over all 3 seasons, but the way this crew has bonded is really affecting. I think, like Saru when the ship is disintegrating on that planet there, and he says, "Whatever happens next, we are together."
Right.
Yeah.
And we said this about Lower Decks too. That
Right.
a lot of us commented on the fact that the crew is so mutually supportive. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
to
Right.
watch. That it wasn't them undercutting each other all the time as a source for humor, like it could have been on a show with that kind of subject matter.
It's. I mean, in a weird way, it's almost like we're back to what Roddenberry wanted to see.
Yeah.
You know, like no disagreements. You know.
It was really interesting that not only the original series theme was used to close this episode,
Yes.
but a big full screen Gene Roddenberry quote.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
A really interesting touch.
It's like they're saying simultaneously, "This ain't your daddy's Star Trek," but it really kind of.
But it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unless it's Admiral Daddy.
Yeah.
You know it, baby. You know it. All right,
We
Jackson.
all want to be an Admiral Zaddy Star Trek.
Jackson points out that the internet has fundamentally changed how shows are written.
Yep.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I wonder if Jackson could expound upon that, or any of you.
Well, his next comment is because they have temp checks immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that's going back to what I was saying earlier about them course correcting several times over the second and third seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that is because of internet feedback. You look at the way the Klingon design subtly changed
Oh,
between
yes.
seasons 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I think
yes.
that's because of the internet rage over the
I think
Klingon
so, too.
redesign.
I mean,
No.
what other reason is there to do it? Why would you not stick with what you had?
Right.
Because
Good answer.
thank you.
Did anyone catch the Wrath of Khan reference? I did not. Who
No.
did?
No one's situation.
Yeah. The no one
Oh, that.
situation.
Oh, yeah.
I
I
was
was there with another one.
I was really, really hoping that they would actually come back to that, and like I always said, I didn't believe in no win situations,
Right.
you know, or something like that. I
Right.
did like that they made her barefoot like Die Hard, you know, because
Right.
just to kind of really, you know.
So that
put
makes her
point
the
home.
Ina Garten character of the show.
She was, yeah, actually. I just thought it was great. She lost her shoes. Like, okay, this is literally just Die Hard in space. You guys are awesome.
So does that make Book Jeffrey?
Who's Jeffrey?
Ina Garten's husband that she always
He's
referred
not.
to.
He's not.
Oh.
He's not gay and missing. most of
Well,
the time.
hello. Hello, exactly.
I was
Um,
trying to map him to a Die Hard character. Like, is
Yeah,
thought
who was Jeffrey in Die Hard?
yeah, I thought you were saying Book was the kid in the limo down in the basement of the Nakatomi Plaza, which just didn't make any sense.
Jackson thinks that detached nacelles are insane.
I mean, if they're gonna blow up at any moment, though, maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, they're still
I-
close enough to you that they're
It's-
going to do damage.
It's actually something I've been thinking about a lot because 1,000 years in the future, they probably like. It felt weird at first because we're so used to like, okay, the
Yeah.
ship has to be one unit of something that has to always like be attached together.
Mhm.
But
Right.
1,000 years in the future, they'll probably have enough enough advanced mastery of certain kinds of physics that they would actually be able to have structural magnetic,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
fields and stuff like that.
Sure,
So
It would
It
be
was- it
a
was
whole
a cute-
ship made of magnadoodles.
but it bothered me at first, but in this episode they established that it is magnetism that's holding the nacelles on.
Yeah.
And I've worked jobs where my ID tag was held on by a magnet, and so it's not even really new technology. It's
Because that's the equivalent of an engine on a starship.
absolutely.
Magnetic nacelles. How do they work?
Like magnets
Like nacelles.
that are
Magnets.
magnetic.
I don't know. It was one of those things. Like I thought it's a cool design decision just to make it look visually distinct and different, and it makes it's not so far fetched for me. Although it does beg the question of how exactly did she get into the nacelle if the nacelles are detached?
It raises the question. It doesn't beg the
Oh,
question.
you're right. I'm sorry, Vandy Beth. I apologize.
Well, I thought she was working like right at the edge of the. I don't know what you would call it. The juncture where the main ship communicates with the nacelle.
Possibly. I don't know.
The geography of, or whatever the shipboard equivalent of geography is,
Well,
they
question-
didn't really give us a sense of that.
Yeah.
I want them to go full upgrade on this thing and make it a fucking transformer like Bookship is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like maybe they could morph it into the Enterprise very quickly during a particular chase or something. You know, we have to look like another ship.
Exactly. This is kind of where I was thinking that scene was going to go. Jackson was thinking that Burnham was going to come out of the programmable matter wall with a mech suit.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Now, would go all Ripley on Osiris' ass.
Right. Daniel was thinking that she was going to interface with the ship and then like control systems or something.
It would have been interesting.
It would have been interesting, but it also would have been like more magical Burnham.
Yeah.
So a thought on her coming out. Like, I know she like coughed up a couple of
That
pieces.
was pretty funny. Yeah, that was
I
pretty
think
funny.
if it was lower decks, she would have bent over and just vomited
Yeah.
programmable matter.
Definitely.
But then the matter would have turned into something and run away.
Right.
Turn it into a peanut hamper.
They looked to me. They looked a little too much like the replicators on Stargate SG-1.
Yeah. They
Agreed.
did.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Agreed.
did.
I think this is in reference to Olatunde's camera angles. Jackson says it's better than lens flares.
It is.
I gotta
Yeah.
say, there's been a couple of episodes this season that have overdone the lens flares. Stop it.
JJ's legacy.
That's the truth. Let me see what else we got. Wendy says, wonder if the Federation will free the remaining Emerald Chain slaves.
I don't know. I mean, maybe in a place where there's a vacuum or something, but they're kind of non-interventionist in a lot of ways like that.
I almost think that maybe next season we will see a few episodes that show how hard life has become without the Emerald Chain. Like, they might have been slaves, but now they're going to be widespread poverty and so on. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, living in destitution. I'm wondering if we might see the after effects of that.
You know, in the first two episodes, in both of them, the first episode was Burnham solo, and the second one was the ship until they meet it with Burnham at the very end. In both of those episodes, they showed these sort of downtrodden people who were, like on their own, like the Wild West kind of thing, where they see the Federation as this symbol of hope. Like, Federation people show up and they're like amazed, and I thought that was going to be more of a tone for this season, and it only happened in those first two episodes.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, we hear about it at the end, but they don't
At the
show
end,
us.
sure.
They don't show us.
Right.
So,
I think some of that though is a victim of the short seasons that we have.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
I mean, it does have a little bit of like an Andromeda kind of feel to it, though. I mean, Andromeda was notorious for this, where like you'd go from one episode where there's nobody, and then the next where there's a ship full of people. So it's, I don't know. I think they're doing the best with what they can to tell the story.
Yeah, that's true.
But they didn't. I mean, there was the episode where they picked up Rin, where there are all those
that's true.
slaves on that planet, and so we're seeing some of the evil that the Emerald Chain is.
Sure, that's very true. But these, I don't know. I guess it's because the Emerald Chain hadn't really been introduced too firmly yet. We saw a little bit of it in the first episode, but it wasn't really told who they were or why they were or any of that stuff yet. So in the second episode, I guess those people just felt more disenfranchised than they were, like, I don't know, under somebody's boot necessarily. But anyway, whatever. I kept wondering how these battered characters can just go on and end without sleeping. Eating or drinking and still being all
atheistic.
Atheistic. Oh, gotcha. And fighting. Are they cyborgs?
I think they meant athletic. I don't know.
I'm struggling to see how non-belief in deities would.
Well, that's where all food and drink comes from.
Right.
No, Wendy's trying to say, how can they go without sleeping, eating, or drinking and still not believe in any gods, because when you get that dehydrated and hungry, you start to hallucinate,
That is true.
and you'll believe in just about anything.
Oh Lord.
I don't know. Adrenaline. It's a powerful drug.
Right. Okay.
Either that or they found Gowron's cocaine stash.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to some of the other aspects of the episode. First of all, the burn. What do we think about how that resolved?
That was a heavy sigh from Dove.
Right.
The only letdown I have on this
Okay.
is it felt really, really mundane. Like, of all of everything, like, I on the one hand, I guess it makes a little bit of sense that like one person can have that much effect on the universe or whatever, but like really, it just felt so. Just it was like they built it up as this big thing, and then it's just scared kid in a hollow suite. Like that's it just felt so, like it felt like it was not. It just didn't feel like something that should have caused that. And then the technobabble that they came up with for it was ridiculous. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a nice story, but it felt like a letdown.
I'm glad we did get some technobabble around it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It
you
wasn't
have to
just
have
kind
that.
of magic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely felt like a little bit of a letdown.
It,
I think-
it
Go ahead.
was, and it was silly technobabble, of course.
Well, yeah.
But honestly, I was just happy that it didn't turn out to have anything to do with Michael.
Yeah.
or
Well,
Mother,
True.
Thank you.
Very
That
true.
is the truth right there.
which had been my concern. And
The music. I just remembered that whole plot line with the music. They just dropped it.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right.
No, it was
Huh.
that because his last few lines. Oh gosh,
Mm-mm.
his last few lines when he was I think shutting off the hologram, he was singing them, and I think it was.
What?
I'd have to go back and check,
hmm,
but I think it was to the tune of the lullaby. And Alan, didn't you suggest 2 weeks ago that the lullaby that
Yeah, but they didn't
Field
say anything.
dancing-
They didn't say anything about it. They
No, they
didn't.
didn't. No,
they
they didn't.
didn't-
address it.
I mean, Saru is hearing it and he didn't seem to recognize it, so there doesn't seem to be any connection.
Yeah.
So what was the point of all that?
And also the
Hmm.
whole like Gray. I mean, Gray existing within that was kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you think Gray would have said something?
yeah.
Oh, true.
hmm.
I think that's a plot line they dropped.
Or it plays into next season. This is because there's such a long break between when we get new content. It's sort of like every season is its own thing, and there's not a whole lot of carryover as far as like the main plot from one season to the next. So I think we're kind of done with Burns, and then we're done with the music theme.
Yeah, that was weird. I mean,
It was.
I'm curious to see if they managed to find a way to get like, because Gray was scared about like disappearing or whatever, and my first thought was, I'm sure the Doctor's mobile emitter is somewhere in a
Yeah.
museum or something.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Clearly, she can exist in a holographic environment, or they can exist in a holographic environment. So
No,
like,
He is
can
a he.
exist.
right, he can exist in a holographic environment. So
But can't they just use programmable matter?
they could do that too.
Well, but no, because Gray is actually inside Adira.
I know that, but
But
So
somehow
what they-
inside Adira became outside Adira.
Yeah.
So
What they need is some kind of an implant for Adira to.
or
Oh,
they
great.
need to add a new layer of psychic ability to Book, and he can
There you
Extract.
go. Yep.
Gray as his own entity.
I'm just,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm glad that Book has a place in the ship and it has replaced Stamets. So
It's interesting that Stamets was absent from most of the entire episode.
good.
I knew you'd think so.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, he is not a Stamets fan.
I cannot stand him, but
Hmm.
I'll be quiet. No, no, I liked it. I liked Book being able to do that because I want more people to be able to run the Sword Drive.
Right. And you were saying before we went live, you were also saying about the other people of his race.
Oh, so like we now have honestly, the people of Quajon could be like the Dune navigators or something,
Exactly.
right? Like they could be a whole race of people that can run the spore drive. You know,
Exactly.
but
I thought exactly that when we learned that Book could run the spore drive.
mhm.
And if they don't want to, they now have the technology, thanks to Asira, to force them to.
I was really hoping that. Okay, this is kind of how, before we came into this season, how I was envisioning this season playing out. That they would end up in the future and they would be basically isolated. They would have no contact with the Federation. They would be all alone, sort of Voyager-y, but they would run into pockets of like the two different people that we met in the first two episodes, and they would encounter more of that kind of stuff, and they would sort of become the Federation to these people that they encounter. And at the end of the season, they do discover the Federation, and it's completely different than what they know.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, they don't understand the Federation. They don't know how to relate to it. They want to be a part of it and exist in it, but it's so different that they don't know how. And they become the face of what the Federation should be.
You know, that was my big gripe one of my big gripes about the season, although I enjoyed it overall, was how familiar the universe still was.
Yeah.
That,
Right.
you know, after 1,000 years, everything should have been much more alien, ideally.
Right. Agreed.
And sure, you want it to still be Trekkie. You know, we got Intrepid class and the USS Nog and all that good stuff. And they're still wearing the Delta. Great. But yeah, they slot back into that world much too easily, I feel like.
Agreed.
On Earth, I felt like we got a little bit of that. But they could have taken it so much further. They could have made everything really, really strange. And
right.
You know, it would have been, and it would have tied into that Roddenberry quote at the end. It would have been such an adventure for them to have to learn who humanity is now,
right?
And who Starfleet and the Federation are now.
Absolutely,
that's a really good point.
Absolutely,
that's a really good point. That would have actually, that would have been really, really cool.
Alan and I were talking 2 weeks ago. Wasn't there a line to the effect that the Klingons are still in the Federation, even though Earth is out? Or did I imagine that? Did I dream it?
The Cardassians are in the Federation.
The Cardassians. Okay, well, gosh, maybe even better.
Yep.
How freaky is that world now that the Cardassians have replaced Earth? So, you know, we should explore that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, they still can. I mean,
yeah, we may.
Some things are very different. Like, you know, Vulcan isn't even called Vulcan anymore, and that whole Romulan and Vulcan rapprochement.
Whoa!
Fancy French words
that we had no reason to expect until we saw it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and that, you know, we can go anywhere and see things that are radically different. Like, you know, maybe I don't know, maybe the Borg are all organic farmers now or something.
Maybe the Borg are the Canadians.
I mean, there's no with the spore drive, there's none of the limitations that we had before.
Exactly.
The Discovery can go to the Gamma Quadrant and see what's up with the Jem'Hadar in the new time. And
that's something else we were talking about before we went live. Myself, Alan, and Dove, is we'd love to see what's going on with the Dominion.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
What that's become.
Oh man, imagine going to the Founders. Well, I guess we can't really get Odo back, so never mind. That would be. We can't have Odo back, but it would be really cool if we went to the Founders planet and like they got that on that one little rock, and then Odo comes up out of it like, "Hi guys," you know.
Well, I mean, death does not stop a character, and all we need to do is have an episode that is written and directed by David Lynch, and he will turn Odo into a giant black teapot, and it'll be fine.
Well, I think Salome Jens is still around, so she could probably, you know, she could, you know, be like, yeah, Odo didn't like us anymore, so he left.
Right. Right.
I love the idea of exploring the Cardassians a little more now they're in the Federation.
Mm-hmm.
Discovery Season 4, keeping up with the Cardassians.
that was just Deep Space Nine. That was Honestly, I loved the Cardassians on DS9. I loved
absolutely.
I do too.
It would
They
be,
were
it would-
great villains.
yeah.
And
Okay, go ahead.
Salome Jens is 85. So if they want
Is
to,
she really?
Wow.
Holy
bring back the
smokes.
female changeling, they need to hurry.
Jeez.
This is a really interesting point. It's a bad precedent to establish that ghosts can be picked up by holodecks.
Yeah.
But it does mean that if we have any more deaths in the crew, they can still be around.
Gray isn't a ghost, though. Gray is
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
think he's
Yeah.
using.
But I think the very unique circumstances of Adira still having Gray within themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I think
Builder.
they wrote themselves into a corner with it, though. I feel like there's only so much you can do with that character. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why they had to establish getting him out of there and into some kind of interaction with the other people. So while I'm hoping that they go down that road somehow, because I love that actor. I love Gray as a character.
right.
I still feel like feels like another one of those things where they're doing a course correction, a minor one at the really, but
My friend Sharon says Stamets is going to have some choice words for Burnham at some point. Let's talk a little bit about Burnham. Well, first of all, Burnham taking command is a really sore point for my buddy Josh, because throughout this whole season, she has continued her penchant for disobeying, for going rogue, for just not being a good officer, and she continuously gets rewarded for it. And now she has a captaincy, and they're basically have legitimized her. My kid does math with pictures, so she's a revolutionary, and so are you, Michael Burnham. And who's for me to say that you shouldn't just go off and do any damn fool thing that you want to do because it's going to turn out right. Now, do you really give a ship to a commander like that?
especially the most powerful one in the fleet.
True.
Okay, now my other thing about that is just from a meta perspective. From the beginning, they were saying, well, this is a new kind of series where we're not going to be following the captain as the major character.
Yes.
The main character.
Mhm.
It's going to be an underling as the main character, so it's a different kind of stories to be told.
Right.
And this is kind of like, and I liked that she wasn't taking the captaincy when
Yeah.
she's like, Saru, it's you.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, in terms of she's a great agent. Sure, I think she'd even be a great XO, but Tilly was a better captain than Burnham. Burnham has proven herself to be, honestly.
Oh yeah, because it's a great captaincy to 5 minutes later have your ship taken over by the enemy.
Well, that was a bit
Sorry.
beyond control, but no,
That's just me being bitchy.
I know. But in terms of her getting the support of the people around her, and in terms of being able to marshal her troops to her plan, I mean, she's fantastic. She has great command ability, and I think Burnham has great ability to do literally everything in the universe, but I don't think we've ever seen her. I don't think we've ever seen her command something.
Guys, it's fine. She'll be demoted within 3 episodes.
Mm.
That is true. But what's interesting? Okay, I want to get back to Sharon's point. Now that Burnham has command, how do we think that the way that the episode ended with Stamets and her? How do you think that's going to play out from here? Is there permanent damage to that relationship? Is she now commanding a sort of resentful underling, or will it just blow over?
It will.
Staying silent.
It will be as enduring as Detmer's PTSD was.
Yes,
There you
exactly right.
They will pay some lip service to it in the first few episodes of season
But-
4.
But
And
they
then
might not even do that.
I think they will.
Because we don't
They
know.
will.
I mean, it may be a year between this point and when the next, not in real world time, but in story time, it could be a year down the road. And
Yeah, but I think they're committed to it as a storyline. Like at the very end, when all the bridge crew were standing at attention, welcoming now Captain Burnham onto the bridge. I noticed that Stamets was looking down in a way where all the other characters were looking at her and smiling, and
exactly.
I thought that was it was small, but I thought it was a nice touch, and it tells me that they are going to take that rift between them seriously in the future.
And
What we need is
honestly,
a thought balloon over Stamets' head saying, "Mother."
honestly, though, now that we've established that Book can pilot the ship,
Yep.
and we don't need Stamets, I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps he leaves at some point next season.
Stamets?
Or gets airlocked. I don't know. I'm just,
Mhm. Yeah, I wanted to go back briefly, if we could, about to talk about how insubordinate and
Yeah.
Disobedient Burnham is. As Sharon says, as other people have said, Kirk was the same way. Spock was the same way. Tuvok at times was the same way. And they discuss this over at a Facebook group I follow called "The State of Black Science Fiction," and it was noted there that Burnham is getting a lot of heat for this that those other characters didn't get, and she is a black woman, and we are all white people here, so maybe it's not even something that we.
That's a really good point, actually.
Mhm.
That is something I do want to think about. I mean, because I guess I think it might also be another case of so much focusing on her, so much and so few episodes in a season that it almost feels more concentrated, because that's like the plot point literally every time that we see her.
Mhm.
Whereas there's probably the same number of incidents of that on other series across various characters. I mean, because I was actually just thinking she's going to be like Captain Riker. Riker there was a whole thing about him, like not disobeying, but definitely pushing back against orders and so forth. So I don't know. I think maybe that is something that we probably could think about.
I think also the big difference from a commentary perspective is, those other characters weren't in the age of the internet, where people, it's almost like mob justice at times, where people start talking and it just spirals and spirals and spirals, and the next thing you know, everyone's rabidly complaining about Burnham.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Versus even taking a look at Tuvok, who the internet was around, but we didn't have Facebook and Twitter and social media. It was maybe 200 of us nerds on a message board. You didn't have that same level of constant scrutiny and oversight, and people getting angry because they're angry about the state of the world and things out of their control, so they take it out on a character. And that misplaced misogyny and racism, didn't come into play in the same way 20 years ago.
That's a really good point. But that
seems like a topic for an entire episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sharon, I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is a really good point that I know I hadn't thought of, like comparing her to the other characters that do get a lot of that really don't get flack for that. Like, we respect that in them, but why are we so eager to criticize Burnham? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clarence ponders that maybe the future is missing those alpha captain that we are so familiar with from previous shows. That's very possible. Chris says both Kirk and Spock were noteworthy because they were so out of the box. That's true. Sharon says, I don't think Burnham is any less rogue than Kirk was.
Let's be fair, even at times Picard. I mean, First Contact, you think Picard is perhaps the most...
Oh, Insurrection. There was a whole movie about that.
First Contact, to hell with our orders. Let's go fight the Borg.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of the captains have had their moments of...
Sure, of course they do. Every captain has to interpret the rules based on the situation they find themselves in.
Some like to murder their way across an entire quadrant.
But you remember at the end of the first season of Next Gen, and this is before we really think of the Next Gen characters being as well developed and established as we know them to be 7 years down the road, there was that episode where there's a team of investigators that is the next to the last episode, I think.
Yes.
Team of investigators comes on the ship and they're asking all these questions, and all the questions are, why did you do this thing this way?
Mm-hmm.
and the way that they phrase it, it sounds like you did this horrible bad thing. But when you watch the episode that they're referring to, you see why choices were made and why decisions were made. So there is definitely an element of that.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
sounds like me when I'm trying to help my mom with her computer.
Wendy says she said that Saru won't be captain anymore. Like what, he's on sabbatical, coming back as number one. I bet you they are leading up to him being made an ambassador.
Oh yeah,
That makes sense.
or an admiral.
Or when
I don't think an admiral. I think it's going to be ambassadorial.
Yeah,
And he will be positioned on Discovery, which keeps him as main cast. But he will be the one who was the voice of the Federation in an official capacity.
that would make so much sense. That really would.
And
And
when we
so-
look back at that episode with Navarre and the way that he communicated with the whatever she was, president or whatever, it really set the tone for that move.
Hmm.
and equally when Burnham inevitably gets demoted, he can just put the uniform back on.
Exactly. Admiral Silverfox will call him up and say,
It's not working out. We kind of need to make some rearrangements, some readjustments.
Now you see in that Navarre episode when Saru made that connection with the Vulcan president, I thought they were,
It's like a love connection.
yeah, I thought they were flirting with each other.
God, Candace thought that too.
That's about how Vulcans would flirt. Yeah, that would make sense.
Mhm. I mean, if she ever said she finds Saru satisfactory, then Katie bar the door.
Tonight on Horny Brig.
We have 5 of the most satisfactory panelists in all of fandom.
If this shuttlecraft's not a rockin',
and
Is that a Horgom in your pocket or?
and where does one find the horny brig? On the seed vault.
Oh my god!
Let me just tell you how disappointed I am that the seed vault did not make a return this season.
I wanted to see Nan.
I know exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sharon mentions that Stamets had already mentioned wanting to transfer to another ship. That is true. This made, but now he's got a little family.
Yeah.
He and Hugh are back together. They now have 2 kids, essentially. So it would mean his whole family wanting to move.
Oh god, are they gonna set? Is this gonna be the new Keiko O'Brien?
I was going to say,
Stamets is the Keiko.
I know
Culber is
Dove
the
is,
O'Brien.
I know Dove is not happy with Stamets, and I've heard a lot of criticism of him being so uptight and mean at times. But I think Fatherhood is suiting him. It's mellowing him out a little.
I totally agree with that. And that brings me to another thought that I had, and we're already over an hour, so I don't want to keep us too long. But what in the world is the point of having Tig Notaro in to do basically 2 non-speaking scenes, one in the last episode and one in this one, that don't amount to anything at all?
Yeah,
I wondered where the hell she was while all this was going on with the Orions and whatnot.
yeah.
Right. And I thought, that she was going to be in the last 2 because she'd only done a couple of them at the beginning of the season. So her showing up at the end of last week, I thought they're setting her up to be a part in this episode. Nothing. Except one little scene that didn't mean anything.
Imagine her jerry-rigging something to help save the ship, like, while being grumpy the entire time. But ultimately, that would be amazing.
Some sardonic remarks to Osira would have been in order.
Thank
Right.
you.
She was
Yeah.
probably busy filming something else.
Tig Notaro is in
Maybe.
high demand.
Yeah, possibly.
That disappointed me too.
Oh, also, can we just take just 1 minute and petition for them to stop making robots so cute, because when the dot like collapsed,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, I was like, no,
I'm
and then they
sorry,
brought-
better it than Owo.
True, I know, but it was still
I know.
sad. And then they brought it back, but it didn't have the same personality, and it was like, I'm just.
How do you know? How do you know it didn't have the same personality?
It was different vocal inflections. It didn't have Zora's voice. It didn't sound like.
Do not grieve for me. I am only a machine, although I am very endearing.
This episode had a few kind of tearjerker moments.
Yeah,
I welled up a little when Sahil showed
Oh
up
yeah,
in uniform.
yeah,
I was like,
I was so
"Oh."
worried they were going to drop him entirely.
yeah.
I know.
It was
And-
nice.
It was wonderful.
I mean, what was the point of that? I mean, it gave.
to
I mean-
make you well up. That's
Oh,
what,
It didn't make me well up though. But I mean, why? I mean, it just didn't seem like it meant anything at all. It didn't amount to anything.
It was just
Except to say it was just like to reconnect Burnham with the beginning of the season, but that doesn't.
Yeah, that's all.
that was
that
all.
doesn't
That was all
make
it
it-
was.
and he always wanted to be in Starfleet. Well, now he's.
I know. So maybe he'll be back next season, and we'll see him in an actual role.
It was just to put a nice bow on the season.
Yeah, I don't need bows.
I was also. I also welled up when they showed Sukal discovering his mother. Like
Yeah.
that was a really sad scene, and it was beautifully acted. It was beautiful, but man, it was sad.
Oh, okay. Sharon.
Sharon?
has a great comment.
Yeah.
Ah.
An article about Tig's lack of appearances. Well, first of all, she only wants to be a recurring character. She doesn't want to be full time. She doesn't want to have a significant role. She just wants to do a few episodes here and there. COVID is definitely an extra level that I really hadn't made the connection with. So that makes sense.
Mhm.
Jackson dubs this episode Space 3188. Which I kind of love. That's a great idea. And Clarence says, "Dot 23 is for the win."
Woo!
Which, when people started using, this is totally off the track. Started using FTW on Facebook, I had no idea what it meant, and so I assigned it the meaning "fuck the world," and it was like, and it's in my head it was the same as "for the win." You're just saying, I went to the grocery store and I got all BOGO items. Fuck the world.
It's kind of
Where
like
does this rage come from, Alan? Who
It's
heard
not
it?
rage, it's celebratory.
Oh, all
like
right.
how my mother still thinks LOL is lots of love.
Oh, that's sweet.
Aw.
Yeah. I get texts being like, "Miss you, LOL."
Aw. I guess missing you is really hilarious. All right, so let's. Is there any topic that we have not covered that we should have?
New uniforms.
New uniforms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
really want a future Starfleet uniform for DragonCon this year.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see some, and I bet you will be one of them.
They look
Though I
pretty-
don't wear my TNG uniform enough.
They look pretty easy to make.
I mean,
Yeah.
you better go and knock on all the wood, because that's if DragonCon happens.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
very true.
Don't you mean Touchwood, Anthony?
I do, but I again lived here long enough.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, you're just becoming so Americanized.
Oh, Let's Fly. Yeah, Chris, bring
Let's
it up.
fly.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's
God.
a good one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Speaking of touching wood, we're back to the horny brig.
Hi-yo.
To the seed vault with you.
Yeah, no, I have to say that last few minutes of the episode showing them, like her taking the captain's chair and then them
Yep.
In the new uniforms and all that was really cool. And then just ending with "Let's Fly" and then going into the original series theme was fantastic. That whole
Why
That was great.
did we wait until the end of the season to get them in new uniforms? I mean, we upgraded their con badge.
Because it now shows us that Federation has embraced them.
Yeah.
They are now part
Mhm.
of the family. They've gone through this whole season of trials and tribulations, not
Hey,
tribulations, and now they've been accepted. Let me tell you my issue with this, and it all has to do with color palette. Everything, you have whole scenes, and one of the things that I have trouble with in like space scenes is that everything looks the same color, the ships, the background, everything. Now they have uniforms that are going to blend into the background of the bridge. At least with the dark blue, they stood out.
Well,
That was the deal with motion picture too.
Exactly right.
Almost everybody was gray.
but
Exactly.
I mean, the thing is, the way that it is, there's this huge color block on the front that at least is going to differentiate between. And I think that and
Right.
I think there's enough color that kind of shows on it that it's. Also, I mean that set is reasonably dark, so the light uniforms will kind of, I think, brighten it up.
We'll see. It'll depend on how the scenes are lit and shot. We'll
Right.
see.
Maybe they're going to give the ship a kicky new interior paint job. The bridge will have an accent wall over here. Oh, Ellen, we lost your audio.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can't hear you, Alan.
I mean,
Wow.
with programmable matter, I'm assuming that they can program the color too. So
No, they're going to issue paintbrushes.
programmable paintbrushes, Alan. Just like I think of a paintbrush. I have a paintbrush now, and I'll paint the wall. Like,
Pantone 17-4919.
Exactly. Sharon says disco is now her new happy place.
Oh, that's sweet.
Dove, I believe you were the one who said that it has now taken top spot in your heart over Deep Space Nine, which is utter blasphemy.
What?
okay, that was
Was it Adam?
Well, Adam is the one who said that first.
Okay.
And I had kind of agreed with him. It's still immediately below DS9 only because DS9 has a lot more behind it. But
Right.
I do think that especially, I mean, the last 5 minutes of this really changed and recontextualized a lot for me. I want to see what happens in season 4.
I do too.
Because
Very
I
excited
think
about it.
It has the potential to be the most Star Trek-y Star Trek. Like, it really does. It has the potential to be everything the original series should have been. It has the potential to go far beyond what Next Generation could have done. And I think that there's enough deep story hooks that they could get the writing up to where DS9's writing was at its best. So it's possible. But I think that when I said that, and when Adam said that, I know it was right after the Guardian of Forever had revealed himself. So, and that was
Right.
a really fucking cool moment. I'm sorry.
Yes, it was.
So,
It was.
I think it was justified at that time, but it's not quite overtaken yet.
Okay, good. Then everything is right with the world.
It is my new happy place, though. I agree with Sharon. Like, that is
Yeah.
just, it's so good. And Lower Decks is also really good.
Yes,
Lower
it is.
Decks is fantastic and better than it has any right to be.
Agreed. I expected I would like it. I did not expect to love it.
Yeah.
And by the end of the season, I absolutely loved it. Okay, so any final parting thoughts about this episode or about this season?
I'm good.
I just want to say that like with the way that they're moving it forward and with the Gene Roddenberry quote and the beginning theme of original series kind of being the outro to this, it really, I think that this is where they hit their stride. And I think that they've now finally connected this to Trek in a way that both makes it feel like it's a part of everything, but also something significantly different, you know. And I think that we've gone through the 3 seasons we had to get to a great series.
Right.
And I think that season 3 was a really good preview of what that great series is going to be.
Right. I'm very excited to go back and watch this season again from the top.
Yeah.
It was a good one. And I'm very excited to see where CBS is going forward with the Trek universe.
Yep.
I am really looking forward to all the other announced things that are coming up. And I'm looking forward to finding out if we're going to have more short treks in between now and whatever the next one is that'll happen.
Yes.
I love short treks. I love that whole concept. You know,
I do too.
you might not have an entire half an hour episode in you or an hour episode in you, but
Right.
you have a nice, great 10-minute story. It's perfect.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of short stories anyway.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I want there to be a short trek that's nothing but the bridge crew.
Yeah.
No Tilly, no Burnham, no Saru, none of that. Just
no
the bridge
Tilly?
crew.
Yeah.
No
I'm in.
Tilly. No Tilly.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
go
care
along
if
with
it's
that.
them playing cards for 15 minutes. Let's just do it.
Mhm.
and they're just talking to each other so that we can actually find out some stuff about these people. We know that Owo can hold her breath for 10 minutes. That's a thing, I suppose.
That was pretty cool.
Can we have a Nilsson short
I
track?
can't do that. Yes, please. Yes,
Yes,
please.
but it only plays in the horny brig.
Well, we're already there.
Star Trek: Tales from the Horny Brig.
Okay, let's give this episode and the season, if you like. If it's two different scores, you're out of 10, whatever's you decide to make it out of 10. Vandy Beth, you go first.
I give this episode and the season 8 bridge officer thirst traps out of 10.
Woo! Gray, do it.
I'm going to give both a 7. I thought the
Wow.
season had some real high points. Though, there were also some spots that were kind of dumb or not enough happening. So,
Okay.
I think a 7 is a solid, highly enjoyable.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
Sure.
7 what's out of 10?
Oh, 7 grudge hairballs.
There you go. Love it. Dove, what you got?
All right, I'm gonna give last week's episode 9 Tillies out of 10. I'm gonna give this week's episode, I'd say, gosh, I don't know, 8 Sukals out of 10. And the season as a whole, I'd say something like, I don't know, the season as a whole, probably 8 Grudges out of 10.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. The whole, that line about she's a queen
Yeah.
Yeah.
kicked him out of the fucking turbo lift. That was amazing. That was great.
I was
Perfect. I take it back. This week was 10 out of 10 for that one line.
8 grudges. There's a short trick right there. Accident involving the quantum replicator.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I'll reiterate again. We're going to find out eventually that Grudge is not just a cat.
He's a flirkin.
Sure.
He's not a flirkin either, but he might be something like Gary Seven's cat,
Right.
or or a Q, or whatever. Grudge is not a cat.
Anthony.
Okay, so the 2-part season finale, because I'm going to give it,
There you go.
judge it as 2, is 8.5 sexy older admirals out of 10. And I'm with Vandy Beth. The season as a whole is 8 horny brigs out of 10.
Very nice.
We need 8 horny brigs on this ship.
Yeah.
Even though there's only 5 of us.
The other 2 are closed for maintenance.
Okay. I really enjoyed this week's episode. I'm going to give it 9 ridiculous programmable matter walls out of 10. And the season as a whole, I think there were a couple of low points, but I think overall I'm going to give it an 8 seed vaults out
Hey.
of 10.
Nice.
All right. So that does it for us for the foreseeable future until they let us know when another series might happen. I want to say really quickly that I and a couple of friends are launching a new podcast called Earth Station Trek.
Whoa.
And our first episode, we're going to record this coming. We actually already have 4 episodes recorded, but the one that will go out first, we're going to record Tuesday night, and it's going to be a review of Discovery Season 3. And we have a very special guest that we're going to be recording with the following week after that. That's all I will say. So
Who is it? Who is it?
I just said that's all I will say. It's
Ah.
it is. I'll give you this. It's somebody. So look for us on Facebook and on Twitter. Vandy Beth, what you got going on? I know that you were managing polls on Tuesday.
That's right. I was a
Yeah,
poll
thank
worker.
you for your service.
Yay! Any
Thank
good
you.
stories to tell?
Yeah, but not
Okay.
now. No time
Okay,
for
good.
that now.
Excellent.
Mhm.
R.L. Gray, what's going on in
Mhm.
your life?
Oh, stuff.
Okay.
Working on that PhD.
Excellent.
Nice.
Chasing cats around.
Always nice.
Making cocktails for Candace.
Well,
Quite right.
deserved.
Yep.
Dove, what's happening with you and what do you want to tell us about?
Oh God, I mean, I don't know, all kinds of. It's like lots of shit happening. I don't have anything to promote yet, but I do actually like later on this year. I'm actually going to be launching something big. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, so I'll.
So
I'm
maybe
sure
that'll be in exactly the right time for when the next Trek series happens and we reconvene Aft Deck. You can tell us and make an announcement then.
It's entirely possible.
Exciting. And Anthony, I know you have stuff to promote.
Yeah, as usual, I can be found on the Watchers in the Fourth Dimension podcast discussing Doctor Who in order from 1963 to the present day. We are currently in 1968 and have just released our episode on Fury from the Deep. So if you want to hear us talk about Jodie Whittaker, come back to us sometime in 2026.
If then.
If then.
You just put that out this like a couple of days ago, this past Sunday, right?
Yes, sir.
I forgot to listen to it.
What?
I know. Who am I?
It's been a busy week. There's been a
It
lot going on.
definitely has. Okay, so when there's a new Trek series to talk about, we will probably reconvene at that point. So thank you all very much for watching for the past 23 weeks.
Wow.
Lower Decks and Discovery. 23 weeks
Yeah.
of brand new Trek. That hasn't happened in a long time.
I was going to say, too, it's like a full season of Berman track.
So, and to all my co-panelists, thank you all so much for hanging out with me for the longest episode that we did this season.
Mhm.
I hope it wasn't too long for you.
No, it's okay.
I don't know. It's fun. Well, we were doing 2 different episodes, so
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
an entire season. So
Yeah.
technically, this could go for 13 hours.
oh please no.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
And once again, happy birthday, Vandy Beth.
Thank
Yeah.
Yay.
you. Yay.
All right. So everybody, take care, be good to each other, and we will see you sometime in the future. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.